Do you remember the episode of The Simpsons where Patty marries it was Phil Hartman doing the voice, Troy McClure,
Yeah, Troy
and
McClure. Yeah.
he gets a part in a stage musical version of Planet of the Apes. Welcome back to another mind-bending episode of the Show. We are two geeks who talk about everything. My name is Aaron, and I am joined once again by my co-host and cousin Landon.
Good day.
All right, in today's episode, we're diving deep into four sequels. Buckle up, kids, because that's a lot of movies to cover in half an hour. These are the four movies that followed the groundbreaking 1968 film Planet of the Apes. Guys, if you missed our last episode, that's all we talked about was the original Charlton Heston starring Planet of the Apes. This time we're getting into the sequels. So Landon, do you remember watching any of these movies growing up?
Yeah, I've only watched them one time, and when I did, it was, I mean, probably just a running on the TV. I didn't understand things as much as I did on the first one, right? Because you start to get into some dynamics with each of these movies, which are pretty heavy. Um, I mean, you have some deaths, betrayals, opinions, prejudices, you know, this turns it all up. Not to mention you have like mutations, and I think the only thing I really remember was the where there was like somebody with mind powers, like where you could control people's minds, right?
That
And that
was
part, I remember that being kind of cool, but now looking back on it, I'm like, well, that's a little out of place.
It's a little disturbing. And
Felt a little
certainly different from the first movie that came out for sure.
right, right.
Yeah, like with the first one, I'll say I have vivid memories of catching. So you got Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which is the second one, and
Yeah.
then Escape from the Planet of the Apes, which is the third one. For whatever reason, those three movies, the first three, were shown on TBS regularly.
Yeah.
Of course, there are two more. And for the longest time, I thought that this was just a trilogy that ended with that jaw dropping cliffhanger
Yeah.
of a
Yeah. Yeah.
talking baby chimp at the end of
Right.
Escape from the Planet of the
Right.
Apes.
Right. Right. Right.
Do, did you have like a similar experience?
So I wasn't at the when I was younger, I don't think I remembered much of any of it except that I'd watched all of them. But when I say I watched all of them, I feel like I did. It wasn't until later that I realized that the last three of them are really the Caesar story. You know what I mean? And of course, it's really the last two of them, but he's born, you know what I mean? But it's like,
Yeah, he's born at the end of the first or
right,
third
he's
one. Yeah.
born at the end of the second. Yeah, so it's like the storyline. I remember watching a whole bunch of movies with Roddy McDowall, and I don't really remember. So it could be that I only watched the three and that I didn't watch the other two.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not sure. But I because all I remember is Roddy McDowall, and he did not live past the second sequel,
Well, no,
right?
but he goes on to play. He plays Caesar in the last two.
Oh, he played Caesar.
Yeah.
So maybe I
So
did
he's
watch all of
Cornelius.
them.
Yeah, he's Cornelius, and then he plays Caesar, the grown-up Caesar, in the fourth and fifth movies.
So maybe I did see them all. I just remember Roddy McDowall.
Yeah,
So
I'll be honest, it blew my mind when I discovered there were two more films in the franchise. Like I had no idea. And I think I was like in my late teenage years when I finally got a chance to see Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, which is the fourth, and then Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which was the last one.
yeah.
Um, so let's kick things off with a quick rundown of the plots for each of these sequels. And guys, bear with me if we go kind of fast on this. So we'll start with Beneath the Planet of the Apes. This one follows a new astronaut. His name is Brent. He is basically a clone of Taylor because Charlton Heston really didn't want to come back for the sequel. Um, so Brent is on a mission to find Taylor, And of course, the first half of the movie, basically, he stumbles into Ape City and has the same kind of experience as Charlton Heston. But then he stumbles upon this underground city full of telepathic humans, mutants, really, who worship an atomic bomb. All right, that's crazy. And then they peel their skin off. That movie is nuts.
That
All
is
right, how does
nuts.
it end? How does it end, Landon?
Well, it ends with Taylor, you know, dying and decide
Everybody dies.
to hit the bomb,
That's right.
which I
He
feel like
activates.
pretty much is kind of the way Juliet went out and lost. You know what I mean? It was like just oh yeah, I mean quite the ending. But yeah, everybody dies. If you thought the first one just discovering, the Statue of Liberty was something, no, let's just go ahead and set off a nuclear bomb and kill everybody, you
Well,
know?
so the idea of this bomb that they're worshiping, they label it an alpha omega bomb, which I guess is supposed to destroy the entire planet. I don't think we have that kind of technology to actually with one missile destroy everything. Um, but this is sci-fi. And so Charlton Heston, Taylor, he's been shot, and he figures, I'm dying. I might as well destroy the world. So
I mean,
it's
and
it's done.
here's the thing that gets me about that. I'm like, come on. Come on, man. I mean, seriously. You've been
This is
sitting
the
here, you've
CDB.
made friends with Cornelius, you've made friends with Zira, you know what I mean? And so can't you are you just gonna kill them too? You know what I mean?
Well, it doesn't matter to him. Nova got killed. Brent got killed. So, all of his human friends are dead. And he's standing there, like, staring at Dr. Zaius, basically, like, holding his heart in its place because his chest exploded from getting shot. And he's just like, no, I'm going to push the button anyway. Or let's move on to Escape from the Planet of the Apes. This one I had a lot of fun with watching as a kid. We see Cornelius and Zira.
The voyage
Uh,
home.
yeah,
Star
basically,
Trek 4,
it's
the
this is
voyage
Star
home.
Trek 4.
Yeah.
The chimpanzee couple from the first film and briefly in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, they travel back in time to 1970s Earth. Somehow they get Taylor's spaceship to work. They get it out of the water. And this other scientist they're with, I think his name is Milo. Um, they managed to get it working. They're taking a test flight out in orbit, just because that's what you do. There's no years of testing with NASA because we've got three apes who just let's just do this, and they just happen to be in orbit when the Earth is destroyed, and then they're sucked into some kind of time vortex, and they crash land in the 1970s on Earth,
Don't
and
don't you feel stupid, Taylor? You could have just gotten your ship with Landon and the other guy,
that's
and
right.
you could have just gone back up. You didn't have to go and skinny dip in the water pond or you could have just gone back up in the ship,
One
dummy.
could have been, not lobotomized. The other guy could have not gotten shot and turned into a museum piece. Uh,
Stuffed.
so yeah, Cornelius and Zira become celebrities, but then wind up facing persecution when the government learns that the future, is going to be dominated by a society of apes. Uh,
Didn't help when she admitted that she dissected humans. That didn't help.
yeah, that wasn't good.
That was
There's there's certain things you tell people, but to
keep it
be
to yourself.
fair, they got her drunk. Okay. They told her that wine was basically grape juice. I mean, no, it's not. You're going to get drunk and you're going to have loose lips. Okay. And then
You're
you're going
gonna
to
tell
spill
people
your
you
secrets
there
to
you
a
go.
young Victor Newman and he's going to shoot you. He's going to kill you and Cornelius, and that's going to be the end of it.
That's See,
Uh,
what's the lesson? Be careful. Don't drink. Don't do that stuff. Be
don't drink.
careful.
You know what? Don't dissect humans.
Don't dissect that. That's really
Let's take it a step further. This one is my personal favorite of the sequels. What did you think?
No, I really like this one a lot. I, you know, although I have shared that I don't necessarily fully enjoy Voyage Home for Star Trek, it's kind of campy. I think I like this one because it's you know, you're taking and you're flipping the situation. You
Right.
know, you've gone from, the apes who are in charge, and now they're the ones who are in there, and they're treated like you said, celebrity. They're get all the notoriety. It changes very quickly. They become societal icons, that are easily promoted and then damned. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
And
they go from celebrity to pariah real quick.
real quick, yeah. And then you see how quickly that judgment, fear, dogma, and control just snuffs them out,
Yeah.
you know? And it's sad. I mean, again, we go from discovering the Statue of Liberty to doing up, blowing up the Doomsday Bomb, in the next one. And then now we have our beloved characters from the first two, you know,
Gone.
gone.
Unceremoniously assassinated. And but they have a son. And they so you think they kill all three of them, right?
Which
But
was that was
at at the end we realize that Zira managed to switch babies with a chimpanzee at the circus. And so this chimp, at the very end of the movie, you see this chimp in a cage saying "Mama, Mama," and it's like, oh, someone's gonna have to shut that kid up because
yeah,
that's the kind of thing that needs to be a secret.
yeah,
So
yeah.
then that takes us directly into Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. It takes place in a far-flung future, the 1990s. Ooh.
Crazy. It's madness.
Caesar is the son of Cornelius and Zira. He leads an uprising against the apes' human oppressors. It's weird how things happen because in this version of the story, it's not like what we get in the reboot that we've seen recently. There is a virus, but it doesn't take out humanity. It takes out
The animals.
animals, domesticated pets,
Yeah.
and so because dogs and cats no longer exist, um, humanity has decided to make apes their domesticated pets, which is really stupid because I've heard so many stories of people who have chimps as pets that it takes nothing for them to turn on their humans and they will rip your arm off and beat you to death with it.
Oh my gosh. See,
Uh,
you're coming from a different place than me. I thought it was a clever way of introducing an oppression that wasn't slavery. You
oh
know?
no.
I thought it
Well,
was clever because it's like this is how they're subjugated as but not so much as saying full out slaves. You know what I mean?
see, that's what happens. They become slaves because they realize
Right.
that the apes are intelligent enough to be able to perform simple tasks.
Right. And then
Uh,
it becomes that.
and then
But
it
but I guess
becomes
what I'm
slavery.
saying is like you needed to have a jump. And you could do a big jump and just say, yeah, all of a sudden we decided to have slaves, apes as slaves. Or you can have how do you walk your way there? And so I always
Right.
thought it was kind of clever that they kind of made it out to be a pet thing,
Yeah.
first. But I get you though. I mean, maybe just the actual ape itself would not be a wise pet.
I'm just saying, I've heard too many stories. Man, there's one time I heard like this ape attacked a family friend, ripped her face right off. Just
Wait, isn't that a movie?
maybe. I don't know. Just super painful. But yeah. So it's a really powerful and thought-provoking entry in the series, because they do reach this point where Caesar, who has been hiding his intelligence all his life, the only person who knows is Khan, from Star Trek 2. I mean, well, it's Ricardo Montalban, but he's the only one who is aware of Caesar's existence,
Right.
and
Love
so
him.
Caesar kind of poses as his pet,
Right.
or his chimp, as it were. But at some point, that relationship gets kind of thrown off, and then Caesar is separated from him and winds up just another chimpanzee in the training facilities, and he winds up, I believe, working for the governor. But it all comes to a head, and of course, with any oppressed society, there is an uprising, and Caesar is at the head of it. um and it's interesting to see the way it ends. At first, Caesar is is angry and is ready to take out the human oppressors with violence,
Mm.
but his mate, I can't remember her name, but sort of she tells him no. She says no. She's the first ape besides Caesar to be able to speak. She tells him not to do these things,
Yeah,
and so he has a change of heart in the end, uh, and a hope. We're left with a hope that maybe apes and humans can somehow coexist,
yeah.
which then takes us into the final movie, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which wasn't very good. I'll be honest.
No, but I do think like it back just a minute to Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. I thought because I read about there being this alternate ending where Caesar does go ahead and kill, and he doesn't stop when Lisa says no.
Lisa,
Um
thank you.
but like the implication of just Caesar trying to be thoughtful about that and having vengeance and hate and all that and just wanting to kill and then moving into like this idea of that being questionable for maybe it's not about race, maybe it's not about species, you know what I mean? Maybe this is, different. I wonder too, because you remember the governor's aide was an African American, right? you
Right.
know, and they do a parallel there of about that kind of oppression, where it's related. And I have to wonder if the mindset was that somehow influences Caesar a little bit to understand that this isn't about species, this is about choices, that discrimination is can be anywhere. It's about a choice.
Yeah.
So, but it leads into the next one because you can't have the next one without having Caesar's um philosophy changing.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, we get into Battle for the Planet of the Apes. This shows the aftermath of that ape revolution. Caesar is trying to maintain peace between apes and humans, and it's a fitting, as I have my problems with the movie overall, but as a conclusion to the original series, it is fitting. It's just not as strong a
No, no.
movie or as strong a story as the previous entries.
Right.
Um, Overall, what are your thoughts on Battle for the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's a fitting conclusion. I think you go from, I try to think about some movies, where we have characters who are um, leading the charge, but become, kind of like the peaceful person. You know what I mean? I think that Caesar's role here, this whole Caesar trilogy, if you will, leads into what movies we see later. You know what I
Right.
mean? And in the remakes. And whoever decided they were going to remake these movies or do new ones, I think they took a beat from the fact that this is about someone rising up, building a resistance or a rebellion, but then having to curb that. I can't help but remember with Star Wars. Sorry, we keep going to Star Wars, but I can't, or I did Star Trek before, sorry. But I think about like how in the rebellion you had, Saul Guerrera, who was very much like a hate, tear down the rebellion, extremist. And then you had the other part of the rebellion, like the, Leia Organa, or her stepdad, who had it's not that they weren't willing to fight, but it's a different position. One is built on hate and
Yeah.
destruction and dominating, but you're becoming. What's one of the cool things about Andor? You can see, or even Rogue One, you can see this. There are some people who are fighting against oppression that are doing so out of hate and violence. We see that even today in our culture in protests or in fighting. People hate, hate, hate. But then you have this other part that may have started based upon an anger against being oppressed, but it leads towards peace. There's an objective overall peace.
Right.
So maybe the movie wasn't very good, compared to the other ones, but the overarching message, about really because this movie, when you take into account the fact that ape kills ape, but you assume very quickly that, it was a human doing it, that's when you get to the heart that, again, this isn't about species. This is about your choice, your mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, I like what you're saying there. It's like you've got certain factions who are going to fight from that seed of hatred, and if they're not careful, they're going to wind up becoming the thing that they're fighting against.
Right.
Whereas, if you're able to take your, yes, it's okay to be angry and it's okay to want to fight, but it's got to be a righteous anger. It's got to be um, you know, carried out in a way that is not going to turn you into the monster that you believe you're already fighting.
Right.
So which is the issue here with uh, oh gosh, the gorilla's name. Do you happen to remember? Is it Arlo?
Arlo sounds right. Well, I can look here.
Um, because he kills Caesar's son
Yeah. Yeah, with the sword. Yeah, it was
because he was
Aldo.
Aldo, thank you.
Yeah.
He was spying on Aldo and his followers as they were planning a coup. Um, and so, when it comes to the end of it, everyone realizes he tries to pin it on the humans,
Yeah, of
but
course.
they realize that Aldo is the one who committed the murder, and then it's this ultimate cardinal sin for the apes. Ape does not kill ape because that's supposed to be what separates them from the humans. Humans kill each other. Apes should not be that way.
Which wasn't it? I mean, it was an accident, right? I mean, it wasn't like he was trying to purposely kill Cornelius, was he?
Uh,
I thought he just hacked off a tree because he thought he heard something. I can't remember.
I thought it was on purpose. I thought it was purposeful.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, you can't trust gorillas. I mean, come
Well,
on.
no, well, Aldo was a bad guy anyway, because Aldo was he was trying to take over. He was trying
Yeah,
to overthrow, and I
he would
think
have been willing to kill Caesar.
that's true. That's true. So I guess he killed Cornelius because he was eavesdropping.
All right, so behind the scenes, some of the things that went into making these sequels, of course, there's stories about budget constraints, and by the time you get to the last one, uh, the makeup is subpar at best. When the apes are talking, their mouths aren't moving. It's all very stiff, and it's not the same award-winning makeup that they had in the first one. Um,
Why do you
and
think
then
that is? Because I mean, the budget was similar from what I was just looking at. The budget was it was less. It was less than the first one, but I mean, we're not talking an insane amount less. 2.5 million for the
well, you got to
first
think too. There
one.
were there were diminishing returns on in the box office as well.
That's true. That's true.
Um,
But
and
yeah,
then
that's a shame.
with inflation, you think the first one was made in 68. When was Battle made? That was in 70
So 1973 is when you have Battle,
73.
and it was 1.7 million for budget 8.8. I don't know why. Maybe, and it may not have to do with money. It could just be that they changed up people and who knows. But it definitely was noticeably low budget. You've got to be in there as a diehard if you're going to watch that movie.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, and yeah, we already mentioned that Charlton Heston was reluctant to come back for Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Um, so yeah, I wonder how that went with. It'd be interesting to find out what their original plan for the sequel was if they had Taylor there for the entire story,
Yeah.
instead of just for maybe 15 minutes of the movie.
Well, here's my question for you. All right. So obviously we've all been watching Back to the Future now. We're all well versed in time travel in
Yes,
its
yes.
many different forms. So my question for you is this: is this promoting the idea that what Caesar did is actually changing the future, of which the humans and the apes are like together in a classroom as things are and equals, or is that not changing the future because that happens and later something happens again that brings us to the original? Is it cyclical or is it now a tangent? What's your thoughts?
See, okay, so I actually thought about that a lot after I saw Battle for the Planet of the Apes the first time because it confused the crap out of me.
Right.
Like when I thought it was just those first three movies, and you end with that cliffhanger of baby Caesar saying "Mama,"
That's
it's
right.
like
You're thinking that's how it
it's
happens.
it's a circle. It is a loop in time that always will happen this way.
That's
Charlton
right.
Heston goes to the future. The future plays out as as it was meant to. Humanity destroys itself. Apes rise up and become the dominant species on the planet, and then the apes come back in time and they plant that seed for the apes to become the intelligent dominant species
That's
on the planet,
exactly what I'm
and
saying.
it just keeps on happening over and over again.
Right.
um so that's what I thought after seeing the first three. After seeing the last two of them and knowing that they exist, I'm with you. I don't know. I don't understand it because they don't give you a time frame for when we see this classroom happening with an orangutan teaching a classroom of apes and human children
Well, it's
together.
supposed to be so online. It says it's over 600 years since Caesar's death.
Okay. So
So the
that's
timeline still works out.
so right, it very well could. That 600 years after Caesar's death, we're looking at what, 2600 AD, somewhere around there.
which is be which is
Another It's
after
another
Taylor
1,000
left,
years.
but it's another 1,000 years until Taylor ends up at
Right. Taylor, took off in the 60s
yeah,
and wound up in, 39 whatever in the future, 2000 years ahead. So
yeah,
we're still 1300 years off from the
yeah.
events of the original Planet of the Apes. So who knows what could have happened in
Right.
between. Yeah, 600 years after Caesar dies, sure, his society of humans and apes are still working out. But who's to say that something doesn't happen to cause humans to lose their intelligence and become those savages that Charlton Heston comes across when they crash land on Earth? And,
A lot can happen in
hey,
1,000 years.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So
So it's
uh,
debatable. It could be
it
either
it
one.
very well could still be a cyclical time loop kind of situation, and it's an interesting thing to debate. Um,
So if that happened and let's say they changed the future, then that would mean that Taylor lands in a society with where there's harmony.
right. He lands in a society where there's harmony. He won't destroy the world. Cornelius and Zero would then not go back in time,
And in
and
Back to the Future rules means that that they disappear from
right,
existence.
this is a paradox. So it has to lead to that. It
It
has
has
to be a
to.
time loop,
It has
or
to be
else
cyclical. You're
or else
right.
the paradox exists, and then
Right.
if they carry on and have a peaceful society and Cornelius and Zira never go back in time and give birth to Caesar in the past, then they can never, like, it would break the cycle, and then there would be no Planet of the Apes at all.
According to the Avengers rule, though, it goes off into it and creates its own tangent.
It's a tangent,
So
that's right.
even though Taylor goes to the future and they don't send him back, that's okay because that's already here. It's already
So
happening and it continues on.
so you're saying, according to the Avengers rule, Taylor crash lands in the future in that previous timeline, and that timeline is the one that he experienced. But Cornelius and Zira, their past becomes their future,
Yes.
and so that's a branch in the timeline.
Taylor
That,
becomes a variant.
okay, there we go. I like that too. I'm
And
good
then
with either explanation.
the time police come in and then
Right.
they kill
The
him.
TVA comes in, they prune the timeline, and
Yes.
and then He Who Remains takes care of.
Takes
I
over.
guess I don't.
I'm so glad we've clarified this.
This is the part where Nick Fury comes in and tries to get Cornelius to join the Avengers, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right.
All right. So what's your ranking for these movies from best to worst?
Um, the first one, the first one's number one for me.
Hmm.
The first one, the second one, the fourth one, the third one, and then the fifth one. I think I do it that way. Yeah.
I would go 1, 3, 4, 2, 5.
I was really upset about Cornelius and Zero dying. I really was upset about that. That
It
really bothered
was
me.
it was
And
upsetting. I remember
I
seeing it,
didn't
like
like that at
watching
all.
that as a kid. I was very upset
I
that
liked the
those two
movie,
died.
but that made me really, really, really mad.
That
And
was enough. That was enough to tank it for you, huh?
yeah, not tanking as much as the fifth one. I mean, I've got
Well, yeah,
standards.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Let's not go crazy here.
But did you like the second one?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I did. It's just it's so bizarre.
It's bizarre. But I think for me, you have this cliffhanger that needed to be answered. And so I look at one and two like it's part one and part two, like it's one movie. Like I have to
Right.
look at it that way to be able to work out the end because the ending's just like they arrive at, you know, Cornelius and Zero are like accused, and it's just like, you know,
Well, and that's something that, not to get back on that, but it confused me that at the end of it, Dr. Zaius tells Cornelius and Zira flat out, "You're going to be tried for heresy." But then we get to Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and they're just chilling there in the crowd with everybody else. They're not on trial for heresy. What? I mean, I know in a lot of societies, a lot of human societies throughout history, you get tried as a heretic, you're burned at the stake. Now, as religiously dogmatic as these apes are, if Cornelius and Zero are being tried for heresy, you'd think they would have been hung in the center square.
no, you get that Roddy McDowell voice going. You know what I mean? It's just such a calming presence. He's just got a calming voice.
Do like what he tells Brent when they discover that he can speak. He's like, if those apes find out that you can speak, they will dissect you and then they will kill you in that order.
What's the line that Charlton Heston says? I always get it wrong. Is it like damn dirty apes or something like that? What does he say?
The stinking paws off me, you damn dirty imps.
That's the one. Get your stinking paws. Man, Charlton Heston, he's awesome. What an awesome guy. You know? Good try and
Very intense actor.
very intense. When he laughs, at the beginning of the
That was a crazy scene. I was like, what are you laughing at, man? You sound like a mad scientist.
I thought the same. And then they all go skinny dipping, and I'm just like, why? Why?
Yes.
Why do we have?
Which,
I'm seeing little danglers. I don't need to see things. You know what I mean? Why do we got to do
granted,
this?
if the woman astronaut had survived, I get it. But I mean, three dudes skinny dipping in the only fresh water you've been able to find so far. Let's not do
You
that.
did not have to show any of that. You know what I mean? Oh
Oh,
my gosh.
well, all right. That about wraps up our deep dive into the Planet of the Apes franchise as it was before getting rebooted. Before we sign off, I want to remind our listeners and viewers to like, subscribe, click that bell icon so you never miss an episode of the Show. Landon, any final thoughts before we take off from here?
Yeah, just if you've heard of them but you haven't watched them, just take time to binge it. Don't like invest your life, but seriously, they are worth watching. I mean, remember that most movies today are derivative from things of the past. And so if you get a chance to watch something older, even if you're, you know, just having it in the background, it's worth it because it makes you appreciate the new ones.
Right, and you'll even come to appreciate one of those final scenes in Spaceballs too. I mean, it's the Planet of the Apes. It makes an appearance everywhere. It's
That's
beloved by all. Even Mel Brooks took a shot at it. So,
there you go.
all right. Well, we're gonna finish monkeying around here. See what I did there. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the Planet of the Apes saga. Until next time, have a great whatever it is, wherever you are.
See ya.